Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 68, Stuck in the Mud. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy. And as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. Please join the Dynasty Theory Discord, like, comment, and subscribe. I got Holler and McSpanky with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
It's good. I survived the sickness that went through my household. I was the only one that managed not to throw up over the weekend, so I am chalking that up as a W. Yeah, I know it. Now that I said that, it'll be like mid-show. You're gonna start talking about how much you like Drake May, and it's just gonna be all over for me.
Oh, I hope it happens.
Yep. There's a couple other guys probably that we'll bring. He's gonna be upset about. So we were talking a little bit earlier before the show, and I wasn't making him happy.
Yeah, I might be a cranky Spanky tonight, so we'll see.
It's crazy because me and Spanky are usually like in lockstep, right, with our takes, and so we're starting to differ a little bit. I like it. It's gonna be better for our show. I feel like in the long run,
probably.
Yeah,
rather than just Ron crapping all over my takes, you can.
Can't help myself.
I know.
Just I don't know.
Although I'm undefeated on water with you right now, so
listen.
That's right.
Listen, I'm gonna get you on Zamir. I'm gonna get you on that one. Or wait, was it the tank? Was it tank that we did one? Did we do one for Zamir too?
We did one.
How many bets do I have out there right now?
We have it pinned in our Discord. We did it on Tank and Marvin Mims, and then
I forgot we did the Mims one.
I can't remember if we did a Zamir White one. We'll have to figure that out.
If we didn't, we should. Just so I have more things to not think about.
Just keep getting you wet.
Yeah, baby. You guys are good to do that in Canton, right? Just all hot and bothered and wet. Okay, cool. We'll do a video for it. We'll put it on the YouTube channel. We'll make JB do it. You hear me? Revolt. Anyway, into the news. Nico Collins contract extension, $72.5 million for 3 years, 52 of it guaranteed, 11th most guaranteed money for a wide receiver. Wow.
Yeah, he got a lot of money. And that's the 7th most money, like average annual value at 16 million a year, which is that's not like joking change. Like that's a lot of money, which actually kind of changed my thought a little bit because I was kind of thinking, Tank Dell was the wide receiver to own in Houston, but I don't know. I don't think they see it that way. I mean, you don't give Nico Collins that much money unless you think he is your guy. And Stephon Diggs is more of like a 1-year rental, whereas I think they think Nico is going to be like their long-term solution. But
there's a lot of talk.
Know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, there's a lot of talk in the Discord, and I think it was maybe last year. I remember Ron was talking about just Nico was just the guy, and I was like, no, I think I felt like Nico was good, and then he blew me out of the water, whatever. Like I thought I was going to be, but. I think he's wide receiver 1 there, and I don't really think Stephon Diggs coming in there is going to really do much for that. I think, that team wants more people, more like receivers, right? They only had those two when Tank went down. Then I think Noah Brown came up, and Robert Woods, and so those two guys were there, but they didn't do much, right? So to drop in Stephon Diggs as your wide receiver 3 or 2, whatever you want to say, is I think you're going to make your team better. But for me, I feel like if you're going to be spending that much money, he's going to be Nico's going to be your wide receiver 1.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of money to give to a guy who really has only produced 1 year. Which I mean, it kind of begs the question too, like, was Nico Collins just a guy and then CJ Stroud made him into kind of the wide receiver 1, or was Nico Collins just, did he help CJ Stroud? Like he just, for whatever reason, sometimes guys come into the league and it takes a while for it to click. And it was like his year 3 breakout. And then he also just helped CJ Stroud along. So it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. But I don't know. It just feels, I was just surprised. I didn't even realize he was up for a contract extension. And after 1 year, it's like, is he a 1-year wonder? And then they're going to, look back at this contract and be like, oh, we made a boo-boo.
So,
right.
I don't know. I want to see it again. He has the stamp of approval from what's his name, the wide receiver guy,
Matt Harmon.
Yeah, thank you, Matt Harmon. And so I saw a lot of buzz. I'm looking for it right now, but a lot of buzz on Twitter. Once he got that extension. People there's a lot of stuff on Twitter kind of backing it up. But yes, he's only had one season right so far, and I personally think him and CJ Stroud kind of made each other better, right? I don't think one or the other, obviously. And so, I mean, it's hard for you to be a good wide receiver when you're got Davis Mills throwing you the ball. I do obviously if you are like a top-notch wide receiver, you can probably get away with it being having a mediocre quarterback, right? But I don't think even Davis Mills is a mediocre quarterback. He's pretty darn bad. So I think it was tough for us to see the real Nico Collins, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And there's been examples of really good wide receivers who have just done nothing with horrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
I think back to Larry Fitzgerald, stuck in Arizona for the longest time with nothing until Carson Palmer got there, right? And
yeah, what a stud. Anyway, but what makes it possible though, because we were kind of talking about Tank Dell or Nico being the guy because of this contract. I mean, CJ Stroud's on a rookie contract for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
How many years is Tank before they have to pay Tank Dell and decide? So I think it makes it very easy for them to pay Nico this kind of money. When looking at it 3 years down the road, you're deciding how much we're paying CJ Stroud and how much we're paying Tank Dell. And the Nico contract might not even matter when you need the money. At that point in time, something will be restructured, changed along the way. These deals never stay the same throughout the entirety of them.
Yeah, Nico, I think by the time his contract is done, they're going to have to figure out CJ Stroud. So Nico might be out the door. We've seen that time and time again with those quarterbacks, right? When they're on the rookie deal, you bring in expensive wide receivers to help them grow. And then when you give your quarterbacks that second contract, then you kind of kick the receivers out, and then you draft young guys to come in on cheap deals. We saw it with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, and now kind of with Josh Allen and the Bills receivers are kind of going through that too. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found the tweet. It was shared in the Discord as well. But so David Gattieri is the one that tweeted it out. Wide receivers with a better PFF receiving grade than Nico Collins last year was Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then wide receivers to average more YPRR, so yards per reception route run, excuse me. Then Nico was just Tyreek Hill. So, yes, I think we need to see a little bit more, but last year he had a really great year. And so I think it's a lot of money, but I think he earned it.
For sure. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, he also got the benefit of that Shanahan system getting installed down in Houston as well.
Yeah.
And we see how well that works out for pretty much everybody at this point in time. Do you guys want to get in these muddy situations?
Let's do it. I'll live for the muddy situation.
Yeah, start with the cover boys.
Let's do it.
Okay. We got the Bengals running backs. So we got Zack Moss and Chase Brown. What do you guys think about these two?
Yeah, so let me just kind of set the table a little bit. I pulled some of the Bengals stat lines from last year. So last year they were 16th in total offense, 30th in rush attempts, which is near the bottom. Obviously, there's 32 teams, 31st in rushing yards, 21st in yards per attempt. Despite all that, Joe Mixon was the running back 6 last year, which is probably just due to his 21 inside the 5 carries, which is the second most in the NFL. So now we have Joe Burrow coming back from injury, which should help some of that. It should help the offense just in total. So I do think, obviously with Mixon and whatever we think about Joe Mixon, he wasn't the greatest last year, and he still produced for fantasy. So there's value to be had here. It's just a matter of who are we going to get, right? My bet is on Zack Moss. And the reason for that is if he gets the same red zone touches that Joe Mixon got last year, he's going to easily perform kind of where he's going right now. He's a running back 36 in Dynasty. He should well outproduce that. He was running back 31 last year, and that was after he shared a backfield with Jonathan Taylor. So now, if you want to look at it just apples to apples, now he's showing a backfield Chase Brown, who's not nearly as good as Jonathan Taylor is. So he should, and they paid him too, right?
Yep.
So they chose to bring him in. I don't know. What are you guys thinking about that?
So I have a hard I have a hard time like putting my stamp on one of them. I was trying to look into a little bit more, but I feel like they, didn't feel confident enough with Chase Brown to give him over like as the running back one, so they had to bring somebody in. But then again, they I don't want to say only, but they only brought in Zach Moss, right? So I think like a couple of the other situations we're going to talk about is I think right now it's going to be more of like not a 50-50 split, but more of a split. But I think Zach Moss is the one to buy or own because he's going to get more of the red zone touches, right? We saw Chase Brown last year was more of the like home run hitter, more of the guy to in between the 20s to get them, more yards than they need or whatever, So I think he's not going to be the one that we want the useful touches to have. He's not going to get enough points for us to, be like, I feel comfortable in having Chase Brown in my lineup every week. To be honest, I don't know if I'll feel confident having Zach Moss in my lineup as well. And that's why I think we're having this show in general, right? Is like, I don't know if I want any of these, like, as I was looking through these offenses, I don't really know if I want many of these players other than the quarterback.
I mean, but to push back on that, Howler, like the prices are just so cheap.
True.
Where you can get them and what you can get them for, I think is the reason why it's worth at least taking a swing at some of these guys, like running back 36, running back 41. And later, even with wide receivers, these are all late round wide receivers, late round guys. It makes it easier to acquire them and plant your flag on them and could be a league winner for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I understand not wanting to try to, you don't want to rely on these guys, but if I can stick them as like a hopeful flex guy, that would be so sweet if this dude hits.
Yeah. So real quick, I was looking at the latest startup we did, the Dynasty 30 wants you, and Zach Moss went 11-8, and I was looking for Chase Brown. He went 13-5, right? So both of those guys are pretty cheap, right? They are both bench guys that you're going to be able to put in, on a bye week. Wes will look up some trades real quick.
So actually,
what Moss is going for.
So funny enough, I pulled some, almost like I prepared.
Hey-o.
Nice. I love it when the comments work that way. Okay, so a couple of the trades. So someone got Zach Moss and a 25-second for Joe Mixon, and then another person got Zach Moss straight up for the 211. So my takeaway there is, if you are a contending team, you could probably send your 25-second and grab you some Zach Moss.
Yeah.
And I think doing it now, and kind of taking your guess on Zach Moss, is you're going to be able to do that. My guess is when the season starts and Zach Moss, people see that he's getting the goal line carries and kind of starts getting some of these touchdowns. Maybe he has a couple really good weeks to start the season. They're going to all of a sudden start winning a first, and then that's where it's like, well, he's not worth the first, but like a mid to late second, like all day, I'll do that all day.
I'm with you. And then, I like the comment Wes had here. He doesn't really want to give up much for a Zamir or Zach Moss that might be replaced next year, which is true.
You don't have to, right? But the late second's not. Because think about who's going at the back end of the second in this year's draft. It's like Jalen Polk or like Troy Franklin or whatever. Like that's not gonna set your team back if you trade away your pick and then you miss out on that.
Yeah. So, and again, like if it's going to put you in a position to win, then I think it's worth it sending that 25-second. And then again, if you do send that second now per se, or closer to the beginning of the season, then like Wes just said, so wait to sell Moss during the season. Yes, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. Yes. If you are a tanker, hold that dude until he scores some touchdowns, man.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think Chase Brown is going to be useful, but more just as like purely for like a PPR option.
Yeah,
and like a flex kind of position on your roster. Whereas I think Zach Moss could legitimately be like a nice back end RB2. And if you put him in as your flex, and then you're good to go.
Yeah,
like it was only a couple years ago you had Jerick McKinnon like won people a bunch of leagues, and nobody wanted him either. So.
Yep, I could see that kind of thing. I know Jerick McKinnon got more catches than anything, but I think Zach Moss will get some touchdowns. Right? And I think they used Joe Mixon quite a bit more because they did not have Joe Burrow, obviously. But I think they're still going to run the ball. They're still going to have to, like, in the red zone, use the running game. So, and I think Zach Moss is the one that's going to be getting those touches.
Well, if anything, their receiving core got worse.
Losing
and T.
Tyler
Higgins
Boyd
might be holding out. He's kind of in a weird contract situation. I also saw something earlier that Jamar Chase wants his contract now. So I don't know if both of them hold out. That could get real ugly.
Neither
I think these running backs are going to be
right now.
used heavily.
Yeah. Although Jermaine Burton, he might be better than Tyler Boyd. We don't know, but I think we know exactly what Tyler Boyd is, and so I think, on the surface, we could say that their receiving core got worse. But I think there's a lot of question marks with those.
The godsend
top wide receivers. Yeah. He's going a little too high. Like, a little too much. But you can't forget
spicy out there.
Yeah, you can't forget they drafted him. So I think I do agree. It's got their wide receiving core has gotten worse.
One little nugget, though, because I know I just crapped all over Chase Brown. He was really good with the amount of touches he got last year.
He looked
his fantasy points per touch was just under 1. He actually had the same fantasy points per touch as Bijan Robinson did. So if you want to think about, obviously, very, a lot less volume. But if you want to think about just how efficient somebody was, he was pretty solid. And he did average 4.1 yards per attempt with a pretty bad offensive line. And the Bengals spent some money on their O-line to try to fix that up. So it should hopefully protect Burrow, and then also it should pay some dividends for the running game. So I think both these guys can be valuable, but I think Zach Moss is one of those guys that he could be like a legitimate league-winning running back, whereas I don't think Chase Brown can, right? So if you had to pick one, to me, Zach Moss is the one, mainly because of those red zone touches. And just in terms of just like how you want to play dynasties in general, at least in my opinion, I think if you're looking at your rosters now and you think you are a contender, send that second away now rather than waiting to end season and having to overpay like a first round pick to get a guy of maybe a similar caliber later. Whereas people know that your team's going to be good and they're like, well, I don't want your second, I want your first. Whereas now you can kind of make some of those moves and then if, like I said, if you miss and you miss out on a playoff second, like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I am on the other side and give me Chase Brown because he is cheaper. He looked super good, and I got a ton from rookie drafts last year.
I mean, so cheaper by like 5 spots, right?
But as we saw, like 2 rounds difference. Let me see if I can pull up another draft that I have going on.
I'll take it.
And see where he's going. But I think it's going to be about the same, right? This one's a Debbie, so I don't want to pull that one up.
Dumpster diving for Chase Brown over there.
Yeah, but so I just think...
Listen, I already have all the Chase Brown.
Yeah, I mean, he is cheap, though. Like, he went straight up for Antonio Gibson the other day, like on a trade I just pulled up. So, and for Shaheed and Luke Schoonmaker. So, like, you can get him for...
I will take Chase Brown in all of them.
I mean, hell, you could get them both if you send a 2 and a 3 and throw in some garbage player, you might be able to get both of them, and then you don't have to guess which one's right. You just you're good to go.
Yeah, I think they can get creative with Chase Brown. I really liked what I saw from him on his college film and playing on the NFL field. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he had a lot of burst out there. Did some nice stuff, but we shall see. I think it's a pass first offense in the end anyway because Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. So let's move on to the Pats' entire offense.
This is the one that got me.
Hold on. Wait, we can probably say like Ramondre is probably. Oh, wait. Well, now we have Antonio Gibson thrown into this mix. I don't really think much of Antonio Gibson. I would think it's probably definitely Ramondre at all times, backfield wise.
Yeah, except so the guy, their new offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, came over from the Browns, and he always used 2 running backs, even when they had Nick Chubb. Yep. So like, I don't think very highly of Antonio Gibson either, but I do think he's going to be used.
Yeah, he'll be used.
They brought him in, and the one thing that Gibson does well is, he was a receiver in college. He's a good pass catcher, and if some of that work starts to take away from Ramondre Stevenson, like, we saw just last year he lost some of his receiving targets, and then his fantasy points went way down. Yep. This offense was horrendous last year, and I was kind of doing a little dive on it, and I was like, they were even worse than I thought they were. They were dead last in points points scored. They were 30th in total yards, 29th in yards per play. Last year, their best fantasy finishers. So Zeke was their top running back at running back 30. Ramondre was down at 36. Demario Douglas was their top wide receiver at wide receiver 63. And Hunter Henry was as tight end 19. Man. So, and we all know what happened at quarterback with Mac Jones and the Zap cannon. Yeah. So, So what I will say is they did invest in this offense, right? They obviously drafted Drake May, added Antonio Gibson, which say what you want. He's got a little bit of something to offer. They brought in some wide receivers in Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. The offensive line is pretty much the same. I was looking at their depth chart, and it's the same 5 that they had last year, which was the 29th ranked pass blocking offensive line and 12th best run blocking. So the run blocking was okay, pass blocking not great. Part of that might just be because Mac Jones played poorly. I don't know. Do you want any of this? Like I don't know if I do.
So. Yeah, this is what I kind of came to the conclusion. I just think this whole offense is going to be pretty ugly for fantasy terms, right? I do like Jalen Polk. I do like Javon Baker. I like Javon Baker a little bit more only because he's cheaper, but I like Jalen Polk as a wide receiver. But I think it's going to take time with Drake May and those wide receivers. And so I just think for fantasy terms, it's going to be pretty ugly. And I don't really want to rely on any guy here, right? And I think Antonio Gibson is gonna take in or eat into a little bit of Ramondre Stevenson's production, But I was noticing how like late Hunter Henry was going, and so I think as a nice like secondary tight end, or even like as your third tight end is good, buddy. Because I think he's going to get touchdowns, right? I think
that's all he does, man.
Yeah, I think Jalen Polk and Javon Baker to me are more of like they're going to either get a touchdown like off of some yak, but in the red zone, I just think Hog Daddy's going to be the one to gobble up all those targets.
Yeah, the only problem is when
targets roll around in the mud.
When he's not gobbling up those TDs, he's doing nothing. You might as well put yourself in your fantasy lineup.
Yeah, so that's why I think that
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
At the end of the day, I just think this whole offense is going to be kind of ugly. I think moving forward though, like Jalen Polk and Javon Baker could be pretty solid wide receivers. But I just think this year it's going to be rough. And I like what you said, Wes. Like with a rookie quarterback, I think Hunter Henry could be a good security blanket in the red zone. So I think that's why I'm not saying, hey, if you should not feel good if Hunter Henry is your tight end 1, but I think as a secondary tight end, as a maybe even a 2 tight end league, I think he would be good as your second tight end. But so at the end of the day, I think he's going to be the one that gets the touchdowns.
So the part of the problem I have too with this offense is, we talked about it a minute ago, when you have rookie quarterbacks on the rookie contracts, right? You want like good veteran wide receivers to help bring them along.
They do not.
They don't. They have a bunch of rookies and Demario Douglas, and I guess Hunter Henry is the one.
Kendrick Bourne is still there.
Like the vet. Yeah, but he's coming off an ACL too.
Juju Smith-Schuster's catching dots apparently today, is what I read.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of forgot Juju was even on.
I did too.
I did too until today.
So there you go.
I was surprised.
And Juju wouldn't exactly be the one I want helping my rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no, probably not.
So
they tried to get Ridley. They tried to pay Ridley. Ridley went to Tennessee.
Well, they can trade
on that. Games. Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Like, what are we doing here? And then the other thing too is Ramondre Stevenson. Like, he's on the last year of his contract, so and he's not the kind of guy that I think is gonna get a bunch of money, especially with running backs. The running back class and coming in next year, right? Is everyone's looking at them and thinking those are the good, really good, at least a lot better than this year. So, teams that need a running back, you can just draft one. You don't need to pay Ramondre Stevenson, more than you're willing to give him. So he might be dead after this year too. Like, so there's not anything in this offense that I want. Like, I don't think any of them is going to have good value. I think Ramondre Stevenson's only going to go down. I'm not to crap all over them, but I just don't. There's nothing here. Like I just don't want any of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
very tough to want any of the Pats. We had a bunch of Drake May, but it's later in drafts because of rookie drafts.
Yeah, but he's not good either.
Hey.
All right.
He's not, and I'll stand by that. He's not good, and he doesn't have a good offensive line in front of him. He doesn't have good receivers, so
he's super athletic.
He's gonna have to do it himself, and
he's gonna Josh Allen that team, put it right on his back.
Well, but even Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until Stephon Diggs got there. So
I know.
So I think it's gonna
Stephon Diggs is gone. What happens?
Yeah, I think this is gonna be rough this year.
Growing up to do. We'll see.
So yeah, I mean,
Coleman.
At the end of the day, if you have to grab somebody, I think like Hunter Henry is the one that's going to get you a little bit of fantasy points. Not much, but I think he'll get you a little bit, and he'll get a touchdown here and there. And I think hopefully you put him in the right week, right? That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, Mix Bank, you listed how terrible the offense was, in every single metric, and he was still Hunter Henry was still a tight end too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's if it even minimally improves, he can at least hold that for you, and you can at least feel good as your backup tight end. I mean, don't feel great about it. Feel good.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just don't think you're ever gonna feel okay with having to play any of them.
Totally.
Listen, I probably just have a love affair with him then, because I'm like, all right, cool. I get to start Hunter Henry this week. Hopefully get a touchdown. I get excited about start Hunter.
So if anyone has any Hunter Henry shares in place in a league with Ron, he's buying.
I can't. Oh Lord, don't put that out there. I didn't say I'm buying. I got all the Hunter Henry because it was dirt cheap and waiver wire fodder and all that stuff. But yeah. Man, would you guys trade for any single Patriot player right now?
No.
No.
The guys
bigger.
The guys I would have are the ones I got in rookie drafts, right? Drake May, Jalen Polk, and Javon Baker. Those are the three guys I have, and I'm not buying Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not buying Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is somebody maybe I would get. I do a lot of zero RB. So Antonio Gibson, I feel like is somebody that you can maybe grab in the late rounds just because nobody else is going to get him. I don't feel good about it, but I just think, when you look at the board later on, I just think, take a shot at it. He may have a week
see the
here.
Field.
Yeah. And so I don't feel good about it. No. And I don't know if he'll actually see my lineup, but he's somebody that you kind of can grab.
Yeah. I just don't think there's anything here unless you want to try to get Javon Baker for cheap, as in the deal, or Demario Douglas if he's kind of a throw in. But I'm not looking at anybody on this team and just thinking, oh yes, I need them. They're going to help me win, or they're going to help me in the future. I just don't see it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, tough to buy into with the previous season stats. We'll see what the new coaching regime of Gerard Mayo can do for the Patriots.
Yeah, that's the problem too. I don't believe in the coaching staff either. I'm head coach who's defensive minded. They're bringing in, Alex Van Pelt from the Browns, but Stefanski called the plays in Cleveland. So you're bringing in the guy who helped him call plays, I guess. I just don't see it
somewhere.
Yep, I'm with you.
I might be wrong on that, but near here or there. Let's move on to the Green Bay wide receivers. Packerland.
Your favorite
we
team?
got Christian Watson. Oh, God. Don't get me started on the Packers. Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, and Dontayvion Wicks. Who comes out of this, first of all?
So I've had a bit of a come to Jesus moment with Christian Watson, and I'm buying back in. At wide receiver 40, man, the muscle asymmetry that he's been working on, he's got that down.
Disappointed in you.
His hamstrings are going to be so good, guys. You just don't.
You were wooed. You were wooed by Mitch last week.
I was because Mitch was talking about it, and then I started looking at it and I was like, man, when he's on the field, like he can do some things, and if he just stays on the field, like Jordan Love's
But
a
he
good
can't.
quarterback, and that's part. Well, okay, well, hold on. So Jordan Love's a good quarterback, right? And this is where it's kind of interesting. Jordan Love is the quarterback 13 in Dynasty, according to Dynasty Daddy's ADP. Christian Watson's down at wide receiver 40. Jayden Reed's 43. Romeo Doubs is 53. Dontayvion Wicks is 65. Now, last year, they were 12th in passing yards and 3rd in passing touchdowns. So that production is going somewhere. We know that, right? Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, I think those are good options too. But like one of these receivers is gonna do something. Last year Jayden Reed had a bunch of moments, and I think right now all of their values are kind of suppressed because nobody knows exactly who's gonna be. And I think it's gonna be Christian Watson. Like he's had the talent. Like even with Aaron Rodgers was there, like one of his first plays, like he went running down the sideline. Now, granted, he dropped it, which is probably not awesome, but like if he can, I think he hasn't had as many drop issues lately. It's more just been being able to stay on the field. I'm kind of buying into I know it's like one of those off season, like hype fodder where it's like, oh, he's in the best shape of his life. He's fixed his asymmetry issues. I just think if he can stay on the field, and granted, that's a big if, I think he's the one you're going to want. And I think his value is going to skyrocket. Like, I don't think Jayden Reed's like a special talent.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player. I don't think anyone on this offense other than Christian Watson, I think he is the most talented of them all. And I think if he could just stay on the field, he's the one you're going to want.
Yeah. So you took my, this is put on my notes. Like I believe Jayden Reed's a good football player. I think there's much more upside with Christian Watson. I agree. For him, I've always hated him, but I need to see it before I can actually buy in. And then when I see it, he's going to be too expensive, so I'll miss out, right? But I feel good. Like I don't have a ton of Jayden Reed, but I feel good about like if I get him later in a draft or something, like in a startup, I would feel okay with him, right? But at the end of the day, even with those tight ends, I don't know who's getting the production. It's going to be week to week. I think I talked about it last week on the show. Sure. Like it's week to week. You don't know who's going to get that touchdown, who's going to get that big play, right? I think Jayden Reed can do it. I think Christian Watson can do it. I don't really think Romeo Doubs can do it. I think he's more of like a check down guy. But I just think, I think Jayden Reed is really good with the yak. I think Christian Watson's more of a big play guy. So I think he's the one that will get, if he can do it consistently, he'd be the one that's the best wide receiver. But I haven't seen it. I don't think he will stay on the field. I think he's just a guy that's going to, I know we've talked about it before. There's not really injury prone, but to me, like he's got
there it is.
He continually has been injured. So I just think something's going to come up. Right. And then these tight ends, I also think, there's a report that Kraft tore his pec. Right. And then we always thought like Kraft was the one that could stay on the field. So I think, at the end of the day, like they love all these guys. They're going to use all the guys. So I just think it's hard to pick who is the one that's going to be, even though some are cheap. Right. But at the end of the day, it's going to be tough week after week who I feel comfortable putting in my lineup.
All right.
Yeah. Go on.
Christian Watson or Ramondre Stevenson?
Christian Watson. I think you froze, Spanky.
Did I freeze?
You might have. Yeah.
Okay. Christian Watson or Alvin Kamara?
Ooh. Kamara.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be a universal loved pick, but I just think Kamara's going to get the production week after week.
Heavily roster dependent for me. Heavily.
Yeah. I just didn't want to. Yeah, I agree. I just didn't want to, have that.
No.
Christian Watson or Joe Mixon?
Christian Watson. I just think Joe Mixon's lost a step and they're talking up Dameon Pierce. It's off season, whatever.
Watson or Hollywood Brown?
Hollywood Brown. He's tied to a much better. Well, yeah, Brown.
Okay. Watson or Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I'll take Deontay as well.
Okay. One last one. Christian Watson or Terry McLaurin?
Oh gosh,
Scary Terry.
Yeah, it's Scary Terry as well. I think he's a much better wide receiver.
Scary Terry is going to Mike Evans his way to one of the most mediocre careers in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like it.
I mean, it's just it's like clockwork with Scary Terry.
What?
Nobody cares about him. Nobody likes
they're right
him.
next. Like in, I was just looking at JB's tiers.
I don't know how to respond to that.
They're right next to each other.
Yeah, that's what I was using, by the way.
So I don't know. I think I'd take Christian Watson. Actually, now that I think about it, he's like Jordan Love's. We already know is a better pass thrower than.
I'm
Jayden
taking
Daniels
Watson over all of them, except for maybe Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm taking Hollywood.
All fair.
Man,
I just have
haters.
Well, I also kind of just really like Alvin Kamara.
Ask him a Lions fan about Packers players, man.
Fair. Yeah, ask me about a Chiefs player. I'll tell you how much they're
good. how much good are you?
How much good?
Wait 1 second. Like I think we talked about it last week, but Dontayvion Wicks, like it's gotten out of hand. I feel like. Ron, you showed us a trade that was out of this world, and then we talked about it last week. There's so much hype, like on Twitter. I don't know. I haven't seen it as much this week, but last week it was going off the charts.
Mm-hmm. He's Twitter's darling right now, and if you say anything bad about him, you are shunned from Dynasty Twitter. But it's just like he's not going to start in that offense, barring injury. So like, sorry, just one of the our chat is unhinged tonight, and I don't entirely know what happened there. Watch the YouTube video and read the chats. Quite comical. I'm not going to say it live.
Great time.
But yeah, dude, Dontayvion Wicks, like he was fine when he was on the field, but he's not on the field a lot often, and he won't be unless someone gets hurt in front of him. Which I know people want to talk about Christian Watson and his hamstrings, but I don't see it, man. Like Wicks is like a nice player. He didn't really do much at Virginia in college. He was like a 6th round pick, so like doesn't really exactly have a draft pedigree. There's just like those clips of him burning. I think it was the Cowboys game where he torched a couple defenders really nicely, and everyone just is like, oh my god.
What are we talking about? He had 39 receptions last year, 581 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like what in the world?
Yeah. So yeah, dude, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. Some of the trades I've seen are a little just outrageous. And I just don't understand the hype. I think he's a fine player. I think he's a good like NFL 4th wide receiver for a roster, but I just don't want him on my fantasy teams.
Agreed.
Yeah, I took one in a startup just because of all the hype. I kept seeing his name, so I was like, this seems like a young guy I could put onto my roster here.
Well, like in a startup, he goes pretty late. Like you can do it, but it just seems like people are overexcited.
Yeah, I agree. It's very spicy out there. I'm with Holler. I think it'll wind up being Jayden Reed. There was a saying at Michigan State when he was at Michigan State, and it was F it, Jayden down there somewhere. So they would just chuck the ball up. As much as I hate it for a Packers guy, he's probably going to be the guy. I do think he's overpriced though, because of the muddiness of this situation. It's really tough to get behind paying what people would want you to give up for Jayden Reed, which I would not do.
Yeah, I wasn't.
He's a superstar wide receiver. I think he's fine, but I think he turns out to be their wide receiver one.
I sold a couple shares of him for late first, if I remember correctly, which is cool. Like I think he's the guy that like week in, week out, you would feel much comfortable, but he's not a wide receiver like I want on my teams.
Sure. Yeah.
Christian Watson can win you weeks and games. Jayden Reed's not going to do that for you. That's all. I'll leave it at that.
That's fair. I don't know. He could Gabe Davis, yeah.
Ron had just the most begrudgingly fine. I'll say something nice about Christian Watson.
That's fair. Okay. How about these Broncos guys? We got the Broncos wide receivers and running backs up.
They all suck.
They suck.
They all suck. Huh?
Sorry, Greg.
Jeez.
No. Okay. So, well, this isn't going to help the cause, but yes. So, 26th in total yards last year, their offense was, and 25th in yards per play. They were pretty bad. A lot worse for a Sean Payton offense than you would expect. Now, you can blame some of that on Russell Wilson. which is fair, probably. They did get an upgrade in Bo Nix. But here's the thing. Let's touch on that. They did, and they did.
And by following the rules, do you mean they get an upgrade? Then yes, I will agree with you. Bo follows all the rules.
Exactly, and he fits the offense rather than Russell. Russell just never fit in a Sean Payton offense. Like he just didn't. Oh. So we'll see what happens. But the running backs here, I think what's interesting. So Javonte Williams, he's still up at running back 27, and then Jaleel McLaughlin is at running back 57, and then Samaje Perine is still there somehow, and he's running back 94. I don't really care about him as much, but Jaleel, I think, is a sneaky running back that I think. Part of it is I don't think Javonte Williams is good. And I think Jaleel actually does have some juice. He was really efficient with his touches last year. He is just under 1 point, fantasy point per touch. Javonte Williams, in comparison, he was down at 0.66 fantasy points per touch. So basically, he was heavily volume dependent. And in case you were wondering, he basically scored the same as Chuba Hubbard. In terms of efficiency.
So you forgot about Estime, man. I can't believe you didn't even put him on the notes, and he's your boy.
Wow.
Estime is also there. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I like Logic Estime. He's fine. Like I don't think he's gonna get on the field right away.
Yes, agreed. I was just surprised to see he wasn't there after going to Notre Dame, but he went to the Broncos, so I guess I see it.
Yeah, it's my loyalties are real. It's tough. I'm real split on him right now. But Javonte, like, how long are we waiting for Javonte Williams to be something
this year?
I mean, I'm not giving him a pass, but I think it's tough because he didn't like. Obviously, he was coming off the ACL or Achilles or exactly whatever it was, but but we give him a little bit of a pass at the beginning of last year, but you would like to see him pick up some steam at the end of the season last year, and I don't think he did that, right? And so I was buying when I did a few startups, I was actually like drafting Jaleel McLaughlin, and I was thinking, oh sweet, he's going to be probably the guy to have. And then I was a little worried with Audric Estime, but I don't think, like you said, I don't think he's going to see the field. And so with Jaleel McLaughlin basically free in startups, I would feel more comfortable taking Jaleel McLaughlin over Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was drafted in round 9 of our latest startup that we just ended, and I just think that's too high. He was going over guys like Zamir White, Aaron Jones. I know I like Alvin Kamara more than most, but even I think Joe Mixon's lost a step, but he was much better last year than Javonte Williams, and so. Those are like the 4 guys that went right after him. And so I just think I feel way more comfortable with Zamir White, way more comfortable with Aaron Jones, and even my boy Brian Robinson, he went a whole round later, almost a round and a half later. And so I just haven't seen it with Javonte Williams. And I think like you said, I don't think we need to, how much more are we going to wait?
Yeah. And he got worse as the season went on, which is weird. Coming off the injury, you would think he was. Yeah, I know. Okay, but all right. So they played the Chargers in Week 17, who how the Chargers were at the end of last year. He had 15 rush attempts for 41 yards and 0 touchdowns. That was 2.7 yards per carry. The week before that, 2.2 yards per carry against the Patriots. As he's getting further and further away from the ACL injury, you expect him to, kind of be stronger, faster, get some of that back. And it's like he just got worse.
I don't mean to cut you off, but the last 4 games, 12 carries, 27 yards, 11 carries, 24 yards, 15 carries, 41 yards, 9 carries, 32 yards. One of them, he got 7 receptions for 43 yards. So I'll give him that. But 2 of them, he had 2 receptions, -7 yards, 3 receptions, -5 yards. Now I can say one of them, they played Detroit. Okay, I'll give them that. Detroit's got a good defense, but New England, the Chargers, and the Raiders, right? Those 3 defenses aren't, especially the Chargers and the Patriots are both, not very good defenses.
So the Raiders defense was good.
Yes,
at the end of last year.
Yeah, so I didn't call it. I mean, I called out mainly the Chargers and the Patriots.
As we say, all those defenses are good except for the Chargers.
So I personally, I mean, New England's defense, I don't think they were. I mean, they were like okay, but not great, right? And so
good enough to stop the Broncos the way the Broncos were playing.
Yes.
Well, just for comparison's sake, so Jaleel in those games against the Patriots and the Chargers, he had 6.2 yards per attempt and 5.5. So he got 6 carries, 37 yards, 8 carries, 44 yards. Like, how long is Jaleel going to outproduce Javonte before they just say, like, hey, this is the guy we actually should be playing?
I personally think like McLaughlin is the guy that Sean Payton
he loves those dudes.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
100%. And so that was kind of why I was
already talking another one up though. This isn't there a Watson kid that he's already saying
the kid from
like,
Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why he's like trending on Sleeper. I was wondering why he was trending on Sleeper.
But you can get Jaleel for like dirt cheap, man. Like I was sorry. I pulled some trades. I saw a couple unhinged ones here. Jaleel and a 25 third for David Montgomery. That's fails. Like you're buying real high. But Jaleel for Jalen Hyatt straight up. Jaleel for Dylan Johnson, who's an undrafted rookie. Jaleel for Kendre Miller in a fourth. So like you can get Jaleel for a 26th round 3 pick. Like you can get him for pretty inexpensive.
I can't even find him in this startup. Uh-oh.
He might. Is he not drafted yet? Because I know who my
17. He was drafted in round 17. So yeah, give me Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah, dude, and like at round 17, like who are some of the other guys going around there? Just for context.
So Tyler Lockett. This is the beginning, like 3 picks before him. Tyler Lockett, Khalil Herbert, Keaton Mitchell. After him, Jalen McMillan, A.T. Perry, and then the 2 running backs. The round before were Tank Bigsby and Tyler Algier. So like,
okay, so yeah, dude, like,
give me
and Jaleel has the most upside out of any of those guys, other than maybe Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any of the guys you listed.
You're good. We're just waxing poetic about Jaleel. And then the wide receivers, just real quick. Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, they're all in that wide receiver 54, 56, 60 range. So it's all just kind of like a dart throw. So it's like, who do you want here? Do you want, Bo Nix's college buddy and Troy Franklin? Do you want Marvin Mims, who was probably the most talented out of the 3? Cortland Sutton's kind of the vet who's been there, done that. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. Like he's had a ton of injuries, and I don't think he's really been the same guy for a while. I mean, is there a receiver that stands out here that you want? Because they're all about the same price.
Mine's Marvin Mims, just because I like Marvin Mims, but also the other guy I could get would be like I could go with any of them. It just depends on where I'm getting him, obviously, but I don't feel comfortable with any of them. Kind of like the running backs. So to me, it's kind of a wait and see game. And unfortunately, once one of them like has a good game, then they're going to be kind of too expensive. So I think in the long term, it's Marvin Mims or Troy Frankin. And obviously because Cortland Sutton's older and I think he's going to move on after this year. But really, I think both of Franklin and Mims are more talented wide receivers.
Yeah. Mims is the guy I really like. And I was really high on Troy Franklin. Coming out of college, he was one of my top ranked wide receivers. So he's my boy, so I got to stay loyal to him. But I think Mims is probably going to have the most successful wide receiver season for the Broncos. But I don't know. Sean Payton's offenses are always a little dicey at receiver because there's Michael Thomas, but other than that, like there's just kind of everyone was kind of there, and they spread the ball out. Like, who was the one? It wasn't Robert Meacham, but there was another one, Marquise Colston, for a while. Was the Saints wide receiver 1, and he was just such a roller coaster. It was like he either just lit up the scoreboard or he did nothing, and you could probably see that again with these 3.
Yep.
So.
Yes. Don't leave out Tim Patrick, the elderly statesman.
If he can make it to the beginning of the season.
So what is that, back-to-back training camps? It's
rough.
I think so.
Torn ACL, and then I think it's Achilles.
Yeah.
So
I was so excited every single time.
Poor little fella.
Right. Let's hop into the Browns wide receivers here. We kind of already know it's Amari kind of locked into that wide receiver one in this offense, but the more curious part is the back end here with Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and Cedric Tillman. Do you guys think you want any of these guys? Because we know Stefanski wants to run the ball anyway. Is there going to be enough volume to go to these guys?
So it's a loaded question, right? Because when Flacco was playing there, the receivers were cooking, right? And the offense was really good. And the offense was humming. Deshaun Watson has been horrendous. And not able to support really anybody, not even like David Njoku. Amari Cooper's been fine for the most part, but like even Njoku took a huge step back when Watson was on the field. So there's a couple things. It was like, what do you think about Deshaun Watson? And then two, for the cost, like Jeudy's wide receiver 70 on Dynasty Daddy right now. Elijah Moore is wide receiver 87, and Tillman's 105. Like they're basically free. Like they are so cheap. So it's like it's a pretty cheap risk to take, but it's just it all comes out of Deshaun Watson, and I just don't think the dude can sling it anymore. I think he's just his head's just not there anymore. I think
he's cooked.
He's cooked. He's done. Which is unfortunate for the Browns because they paid him all that money guaranteed, and he's
right.
So I personally don't want anything on the Browns outside of Amari Cooper. I feel okay about Njoku, but his numbers with Deshaun Watson is not they're terrible. So it's rough. And then I also think it's pretty muddy with all the running backs there. There's three of them. I know, what's
Chubb, Ford, and they bring in Dante Foreman.
Dante Foreman.
Dante Foreman. Yeah.
So I mean, there's three of those guys there, and so Nick Chubb is still a really good running back. We saw I forgot his name already, but he had a good season last year. So I just think it's like the whole offense outside of Amari Cooper is pretty muddy.
Yeah,
I agree.
So Deshaun Watson played 6 games last year. What do you think his high passing yardage total is?
Like, wait, is the highest per game?
Like passing yards, yeah, in a single
250.
game.
I was going to say like 220.
So it's actually that just kind of proved my point. So it's actually 289. He actually had a good game against the Titans, but other than that, I mean, 154 against Cincinnati, 235 against Pittsburgh, 219, 213. So like he had one nice moment against. I mean, the Titans were awful. So. I just don't see it, man. Like he's just not. He can't play the guitar anymore, and these receivers are gonna suffer for it. And Jeudy, like as much as we've liked the Dynasty community in particular, has liked Jeudy, like he's never done it, and he's one of those guys we just keep waiting for him, and it's like at a certain point, what time do you just say like, hey, man, the kid bites, like he just can't play.
I was out on him after last year was another bust of a year, and so. I thought last year maybe he could do better with Russell Wilson, but he did not. Like I think Cortland Sutton outplayed him. So I just think, out of the three, like just give me the cheaper guy, Cedric Tillman. But I don't think he's going to see the field much. So I don't want any of those wide receivers outside of Amari Cooper on the Browns.
Yeah.
Jeudy, I think it's very fair.
Fun fact, didn't go over 100 yards in any game last season. So
has he in his career?
Yeah,
I think I think so. But hold on. You guys talk for a second. Let me look. Yeah, he did. He did at least a couple times in 2022.
Yeah.
So not great. Not great.
Yeah,
and Deshaun Watson. It's honestly like, is Deshaun Watson an upgrade from Russell Wilson at this point? Like I don't.
No, I think it's kind of.
I think it's neutral at best, right?
But I think Amari Cooper is way better than Cortland Sutton or any other wide receiver
definitely
played with. So I think that's going to cut into it more than a mute quarterback that's also not very good.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. Jaguars offense. We got some Tank Bigsby hype coming in, which is just glorious for me. One of my guys from last year. I'm pretty excited, but as we've kind of stated a few times through here, it is off-season time. We're gonna talk our guys up. We're gonna try to get them going, things of that nature. But I think it's a possibility. The opportunity is there. I hope they give it to him. Hopefully he succeeds. I got a bunch of tank.
I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be enough for it to feel like, oh, he made a big impact. So I know Spanky was probably going to talk about it, but 325 touches last year for Travis Etienne is someone's going to get it. I just don't know who outside of Etienne's going to do it. I think maybe Bigsby after another year with the playbook. I don't know for sure.
I think so. I mean, it seems like Press Taylor, their offensive coordinator, and Doug Peterson have both talked about how they kind of misused Tank Bigsby last year, and I think they're gonna try to make up for that mistake. And so I think he's gonna be kind of the guy that gets the touches outside of Etienne. But I don't know like how much he's gonna be. But like right now, like he's running back 66 in Dynasty Daddy's ADP, so like it's not gonna take much for him to just outperform that. The bigger question is just like, are the Jaguars offense going to be good? Like, and part of that comes down to Trevor Lawrence. Like he's not been the guy we wanted him to be. Like, in the last 3 years, and I brought this up in our Discord chat the other day, but in the last 3 years, he's had 34 fumbles and 44 interceptions.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's insane.
He's just a human turnover. Like, and honestly, like I saw a tweet the other day, and I forget who tweeted it, so sorry I can't give you credit, but it was comparing Trevor Lawrence in his first 40 starts to Daniel Jones, and it was eerily similar. But yet everyone just craps all over Daniel Jones. And Trevor Lawrence, like, what has he done other than, he's been like this like high rated prospect ever since he came out of high school. Like he was the number one prospect at a high school, and then come in even his first year at Clemson, everyone's like, oh man, when he comes out, like he's the guy. And he was the first overall pick, and everyone just like, now granted that's a lot to live up to, but he hasn't. Like he's been pretty bad. He's had his moments for sure, but there's so many times where he just makes dumb plays. Like he turns the ball over, when the game's on the line, he's throwing inaccurate passes. Like he just can't put it all together. And it's like, how long does he get a pass too? Like just because he's
fair.
The first overall quarterback taken. Like I don't know.
This is the year for me. This is where I decide what I want to do with Trevor Lawrence.
Yep, agreed. To me, he's more of like a quarterback 2 right now, and I think he can at the end of the if he has another mediocre year, I think he's somebody that we're like, okay, let me move off of him. Like you can't maybe able to use him as a backup. Maybe he has a nice, they're playing against a bad defense and you feel good about it. But I don't know if he is somebody that we were drafting him as a quarterback 1, right? But we've already seen he's really dropped way down as a QB, like a back end QB 2. And so we saw it a lot last year, and with those 14 interceptions last year, and then he as well, just so many fumbles. I just, I know they brought in Brian Thomas Jr., but it's that much different than Calvin Ridley. So I don't know.
Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy?
Purdy.
Yeah, it's probably Purdy.
Lawrence or Tua?
Tua.
Lawrence or Jared Goff?
Ooh.
Oh man.
I'll
be Jared.
I'll take Jared Goff.
Yeah, Jared's gonna score you the points, man.
Yeah. See, and this is T-Law or JJ McCarthy.
Trevor.
I'll take.
I can't get into that craziness yet with you guys.
Yeah, I'll take
JJ.
Trevor Lawrence.
I had to do a heat check. We'll see where we're at. You threw me off with the Goff thing, so I had to see. I just kept going on the way.
Listen, I'm a Lions fan, but also, Goff would be heavily team dependent. Like if that team is teetering on the edge, I will take a cop out. If I'm teetering on the playoffs, I'm just going to keep T-Law and just run it back because Goff will never go any higher than his value now.
That's what I was going to say. Is I think we know exactly what Jared Goff's going to give us the next couple years, and he got that extension, right? So we know exactly what he's going to get the next couple years, and it's just going to be exactly a QB2, back end QB2. But I think there's some upside to Trevor Lawrence still, but
exactly.
I feel more comfortable with Jared Goff.
I mean, like there
Jared
is.
Goff. Jared Goff. Jared Goff.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. Lawrence, I'm worried that if he has another bad season, like you're not gonna be able to get anything from him. So I feel like if you have doubts and you don't like believe wholeheartedly, like I think now is the time to get out.
Yep.
And maybe you can pivot to Goff plus, or maybe do like a Goff plus a little something, a little.
Yeah, and there's probably plenty of believers still. Like in some of my random leagues, I see it all the time. Like, why are we hating on Trevor Lawrence? Why are we hating on Trevor Lawrence? It's like, well,
because the dude can't shoot
I can
straight.
give you 100. Yeah, exactly.
That's not randoms. That's stranded.
Well, I didn't want to, No, but I'm more talking about random
leagues
because in our Dynasty Theory leagues, Stranded already has him.
Yeah, he does.
Stranded's catching strays, poor guy.
I'm sorry, Stranded. I had to.
And then real quick on the Jaguars, why is Christian Kirk so much lower than Brian Thomas Jr. right now? So Brian Thomas Jr. is wide receiver 23 on Dynasty Daddy, and Kirk is down at 39. Like, I don't understand that at all.
My only thinking is because of Christian Kirk coming off an injury, but I don't agree with it at all. Right? Like if he's down at hype. Yeah, then rookie hype as well. And so if Christian Kirk is down at wide receiver 39, I would say I put a question mark here. Is like, should we buy him? And I think the issue is if you go to try to buy him, someone's not going to be selling him at wide receiver 39. So I don't understand why he's so low, right? But it's probably a hot take, but I would take Christian Kirk over Brian Thomas.
I would too. I think one of them's a good receiver, and it's Christian Kirk.
I mean, I don't fully hate Brian Thomas as much as Spanky does, but like I feel more comfortable with Christian Kirk, and I know what I'm going to get with Christian Kirk. You can get a whole lot of we can see nothing out of Brian Thomas.
Yeah, and I mean Christian Kirk's only 27 too, so it's not even like he's like old.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do think the whole pass catching room though with Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas. I mean, obviously we know who Gabe Davis is, but I think the other one is Evan Ingram's going to take away, right? And so I think with the addition of Brian Thomas, people are thinking that Christian Kirk's going to lose some of that volume because Brian Thomas is in there now, and I think that's where that number's coming from a bit.
I don't know. So he was still. So I looked it up. So in 2022, Christian Kirk had a 23% target share, and then 2023 before his injury, he was still at 20%, and that was with Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram there. Yeah. I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to demand more than Calvin Ridley did. So I think there's no reason to think that won't. I don't think the volume's going to go down. I know that might be what some people are thinking. That's maybe why his value is lower. I'm not buying into it.
I'm with you, and I feel really good. At wide receiver 30, and that's going to be pretty cheap. And I feel really good about Christian Kirk as your wide receiver 4, right? If you or as one of your flex plays, that is to me that's a really good flex play.
Faux show. All right, should we get out of here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Perfect. Well, peace out, everybody.